Kuroki Gensai has decided to wake up and lock in. Throughout Kengan Omega, the direct sequel to Kengan Ashura, he has spent his time training people like Rito, then Falcon, now more recently Tokita Oma, only getting reveals from the past, such as a prior clash with Wulong when he didn't even have a full beard. And then the one big mini fight he's had so far out of the 300 plus Kengan Omega chapters, the clash with Shen Wulong, the character right now who's the closest to Yujiro Hanma within the Kengan universe. But it's important to note, the comparisons between Kengan and Baki are always going to be here now due to the collaboration and official release of the crossover film and manga chapter. Something at the current recording of today's video still has no information on whether or not we're getting a sequel, as at the end of that film, they very well set up the Kuroki Gensai vs Yujiro Hanma fight, alongside some stuff with the prisoners as well. But do take note, the animation studio who created that film have just released the Baki Dao anime trailer, so it's safe to say that crossover isn't continuing anytime soon. But coming back to Kengan Omega, we got some new stuff from Kuroki Gensai, where the almighty beard is pretty much doing some Yujiro level training. Let's break down all of the greatness. So the first thing we see is Kuroki chilling on Karo's boat, the fisherman fighting dude back from Kengan Ashura, who was defeated by Pang in round 1. Quite the go-to character. So you could say the interaction between the Unks has finally returned, or you could say two beard-wielding legends. But Karo tells us that he has taken Kuroki to the Devil's Sea, where we get the following. The almighty beard leaving Karo's vessel on a paddle boat, seemingly going towards something, but bro is outright aura farming right away. This is then followed by a giant ship approaching in the distance, directly at Kuroki Gensai in his little paddle boat while he's aura farming. And then we get this. The almighty beard saying, "Let the duel commence." Meaning bro is 1v1ing this ship in the ocean with his paddle boat alone. As many people have described it as, pretty much a Yujiro level feat, or something you would imagine the ogre would end up doing when it comes to the Baki story, or a way Itagaki is going to hype up the ogre to another degree. But when it comes to Kengan, this is pretty much the almighty beard's training for the upcoming Battle Royale, which pretty much is confirmation that he's going to be participating, something personally I'm beyond excited for and was hoping would be the case, and more so required for them to actually stand a chance against Shen Wulong, by far the strongest character of all time in Kengan. Unless of course we're just getting baited. But you could say Kuroki's beef with ships actually connect back to Kengan Ashura. A lot of people probably don't remember this, as it was actually removed from the Kengan Ashura anime, but prior to the start of round 1 when it comes to the Kengan Ashura Annihilation Tournament, one of Kuroki Gensai's first reveals, where he looked more so homeless than what he did in the later rounds, for some reason he was stabbing random parts of this ship that resulted in Metsudo bodyguards to actually find. This is of course foreshadowing for his almighty Devil Lance, one of the most powerful attacks in the entire Kengan story. But bro was doing this for low-key no reason apart from flexing, you could say. So is this a drawback, or is Kuroki just having an endless beef with boats? Let me know down in the comments. And now with all this said, it's safe to say a rematch between Kuroki and Shen Wulong may be occurring in this tournament if Gensai does actually participate. Something I believe that will be absolutely great, as prior to Oma's training arc, Kuroki was outright confirmed as the strongest person he's faced in his current body within all of Japan, and was pretty much stated to be the closest to what Shen Wulong's ultimate goal is, that being to find an equal, putting Kuroki Gensai as potentially the second strongest in the verse outright with that statement. When it comes to various other events since then, you could still very well make that argument, with him being one of the only characters since Kengan Ashura who has remained all aura, so great respect to the almighty beard as always. So apart from all of that, we got to see that Cosmo is actually training with Kyozan, something I believe is very beneficial, and hopefully will get Cosmo to do something throughout the Kengan Omega story, as so far he's definitely one of the characters most underutilized, particularly considering his impact and role back during Kengan Ashura. Something so extreme, real life friends I got to actually watch Kengan Ashura wanted Cosmo to remain as the protagonist or be the focal point in the story, with him taking over for a good chunk of round 2 during his fight with Okoya, and then set up for his round 3 fight against Oma. But throughout Kengan Omega, he hasn't really done much outside of his great Kengan match against Sorpang, where of course he was defeated. Kyozan is in a similar situation. However, he did have a close fight with Tokita Oma, where out of all the fights so far in Kengan Omega, Kyozan was the first person to force Oma to use Demon's Bane against him, which is absolutely wild to think about. But continuing with other characters likely to participate in the upcoming Battle Royale tournament against the Worm, and most importantly Wulong, we have Gaolang and Sorpang interacting once again, resulting in a sparring match between these two, something that's great to see, and it seems as though Daro and Sandro locked in for this mini sparring match, but as always Gaolang was victorious, but Sorpang's improvements are continuing to occur, with him showing the ability to defeat Cosmo and Sekibahashi recently during the Berserker Ball era of the Kengan story, but still can't really keep up with the likes of Gaolang, who's around the top of the Kengan Association still. Apart from that, we get confirmation that the Worm, pretty much all that remain, will be participating in this Battle Royale, including the recent reveals about the real Nicholas being alive and pretty much a direct subordinate of the Worm as well, highlighting the introduction of various other new characters and excitement for this upcoming tournament unlike anything else we've seen. And then the most recent reveal, the Middle East branch of the Wu clan, who are pretty much raging at Gilbert Wu, calling him fodder and pretty much a waste of space, similar to a lot of people in the fandom, due to what Kure Ryan has been doing throughout the war between the Kure clan and the Westwood faction, where he's absolutely dominating, where they pretty much claim they're only gonna support Gilbert and the broader Worm if Gilbert actually kills Ryan as soon as possible, meaning the fight between these two could very well happen before the Battle Royale actually begins, or maybe around the same time, a common prediction of mine throughout, I guess, the last year or longer of Kengan chapters. But as a whole, the training of the various OG Kengan fighters has been great to see, and the setup hopefully doesn't go for much longer, but the Kuroki stuff we discussed around the start of the video was certified goated. But coming back to the Yujiro comparisons, I still believe that Shen Wulong vs the Ogre is a more suited matchup, with Kuroki against the likes of Doppo Orochi or maybe even Masashi Miyamoto making more sense in the grand scheme of things. Highly recommend checking out this video uploaded a few months ago.